In large-scale deployments, with a large number of appliances being installed, Gemini Manager can save time by provisioning them in bulk by using some basic information collected up front. First, you need to ensure that your appliances, whether they be hardware or software, are active and available on the network. In this example, we'll use virtual instances on AWS. We have 6 nodes prefixed by ng-test that need to be provisioned. In order to do this, we will need to configure the first instance and use bulk provisioning to set up the rest. First, we'll store the IP addresses of each of the instances in a text file that will be used in a later step. Next, we'll access the first node, ng-test1, and start the configuration process. We'll specify some defaults for this node and then proceed to the provisioning screen. Here we have 2 options, to either provision as a single node or provision a series of appliances with this node being the master. Obviously, we'd like to pick that second option. There are 2 ways to indicate the list of appliances to be provisioned. We can either specify the IP addresses using a text file with 1 address per line, or we can also rely on auto-discovery to find all the IPs found by doing a subnet scan. In our case here, we have a list of the IPs we collected from AWS, so we'll go ahead and pick that first option. At this point, Gemini Manager confirms that 5 IP addresses were read and validated on the network, so we are ready to proceed with our provisioning. In this next step, we will need to specify network identity and binding for each node. We can either rely on DHCP to auto-assign IPs, or use static addresses. Note that if you select the static option, it will still use DHCP the first time to find the initial IP, and then use that IP address for the static setting going forward. Next, we will need to provide a pattern or a mask for the host name of each node, or use a reverse DNS lookup to find the name. In this case, we will specify a pattern starting with ng-Gemini and an auto-incrementing number starting with 1. Next, we can specify the admin username and passwords to use for all of the nodes. You can also specify LDAP server configuration info if you're using LDAP for authentication. In this case, we'll just go ahead and skip this step. Finally, we have the option to assign passwords for SSH access and Splunk. This can save a lot of time in later configuration. If you're using an SSH key for CLI access, you can also upload it at this time. And there we have it. Now you're ready to kick off the bulk provisioning process. It's a good idea to download a CSV of the host and configuration info, just in case for your records. The provisioning process can vary depending on how many nodes you're using, but it shouldn't take too long, so don't go too far. Once the provisioning is complete, we should have green check marks for each node indicating a success. At this point, all of our nodes are configured as specified, and we just saved ourselves the hours and hours it would have taken to provision each of these nodes individually. In this example, we initiated bulk provisioning upon setup of the first node, but this feature is available at any time after setup. Simply access the bulk provisioning option under the cluster section in Gemini Manager. The process works exactly the same as we've seen here.